we see this microcosm of a love story of love and trust and extraordinary betrayal, and it reflects the macrocosm of something that I think is part of history, that it keeps repeating itself generation after generation. And maybe a picture like this, if I make it entertaining enough and make it special and spectacular, maybe it'll stay with everyone, and maybe things, it could help with life. The characters are fascinating because instead of, there are villains, all right, but they're villains who are friends with everybody.
After you see this story and after you see the just tragedy we went through, that, you know, we're still here and we're still doing the same stuff we did like 100 years ago. We're very traditional people, and so we like to keep our culture strong.
Martin Scorsese sat down and he assured us that they were going to make this film in Oklahoma, and it was that point that things started to become more and more easy, and we started working more. Our chief standing bearer appointed me as the ambassador in the beginning. I started working on the film for 3 years, and it was a labor of love. It was very important for the Osage Nation to be involved in this film. I don't think that this film would be what it is without that involvement.
I feel so blessed and lucky that they entrusted me with their stories. The book and the story, the book would never have existed without them. I mean, it's basically me recording their oral histories. My sense was they also thought it was important that this story be known outside the Osage community, because Osage obviously knew their history. You know, when people say, oh, nobody heard of it, well, they heard of it, but so many others had not.
People need to know is that this is just one story. Every Osage family has a very similar story. You know, our voices are being heard. For me personally, I have a better understanding of my grandparents now because they were so silent about it, in fear of, you know, retaliation or that sort of thing. So I think it's important that the way Marty handled this to go into our community the way that he did, that will maybe set the bar moving forward with other filmmakers and storytellers moving into Native communities.
I'm very glad that we had our group of singers come, and I am grateful to be here representing the Osage Nation. One of the biggest reasons that I'm so grateful to be here and be part of that is because it shows how we are resilient. We are still here, and our story is being told, and we made it to LA. And that is what is so magical about this whole experience, because we are taking part in history, and we are history.
You want people to feel like they've traveled back to that time period. You don't want to feel like you're, you know, creating some sort of stylized world that suits yourself. You want to create something that suits what it was.
First, it was figuring out what the town was. We were helped by a lot of photographs, black and white photographs, and then we'd snoop around and find colors underneath the light switches or in behind the doorways and under the trim and stuff, and started to put together the colors of the town.
There's gorgeous beadwork on the red carpet, but there's also something else that's very important to our culture on this carpet tonight, and that is ribbon work. And a lot of what you see of Osages on tonight are basically, we're telling a story about our history through our clothing. And a lot of these pieces have worked their way down. Our silhouette has not changed for over 150 years.
It's a wonderful crossover in time, both in clothing and on the street. It's a time in the Old West where the car and the horse are on the street at the same time. And in this story, modern dress is on, present, which is the 1920s, along with traditional Osage. Mollie is the kind of the heart of this movie, and ironically, she's the most traditional of the four sisters. So I kept her very, very traditional, and we made all her clothes, and Pendleton made her blankets, but I had a lot of pictures of her in studio shots that I replicated exactly.
It's a very powerful and emotional story, and finding ways to express that visually and put the audience right in the middle of the story, and still have a subjectivity to it, in the sense that I try to pick lenses and lighting and camera movement along with Scorsese that hopefully put the audience emotionally into the situation. Martin Scorsese doesn't avert his gaze from things that are uncomfortable and stories that might be unseemly, if you may, or characters that are unseemly. And he really looks deep into the souls of these people. Why would someone do what these people were doing? So it's not like, yeah, they're bad people and that's it. No, he explores the deep aspects of it, and that's, I think, what's unique of his cinema.
When I knew that Marty was going to be directing Killers of the Flower Moon, Renee was my first call.
This one was particularly exciting because it had so many fantastic roles for Indigenous women.
We knew the kind of faces that we wanted. We knew what the family looked like, and you're not trying to cast identical people, but what you're doing is trying to just capture the feeling of the era.
Well, I'm never surprised about the level of talent that I find in Indigenous communities, because they are natural storytellers and very much in touch with who they are, and I've always had great luck, but we were particularly lucky with the Osage community.
It was really special to go into the Osage Nation and meet all the Osage people and speak to them individually about their own connection to the story.